You ever have one of those days where everything's normal? Just another morning, the same old routine, nothing out of the ordinary? You grab your coffee, check your emails, and brace yourself for another day at the office. It's the kind of day you expect to forget by tomorrow. Until, out of nowhere, your phone starts buzzing nonstop. And before you know it, you're a trending topic on Twitter. Not for something you did on purpose, but for something you never saw coming. That was Mark's life. One minute he was just a regular guy, blending into the background, the kind of person you'd pass in the hallway without a second thought. The next, he was the infamous Slack-dumped guy, the face of heartbreak, confusion, and viral internet drama. It all started with a single phone notification. Just one ping, and suddenly, his world flipped upside down. By lunchtime, his girlfriend and his boss were plotting a secret getaway. Right there, in the company's Slack channel, as if nobody would ever notice. But the internet always notices. Mark wasn't just dumped. He was dumped for his boss, Julian, in front of the entire office, and soon the entire world. The news spread like wildfire. Mark found out at the exact same moment as everyone else, his coworkers, his friends, and thousands of strangers online. It wasn't a quiet breakup. There was no privacy, no time to process, just instant exposure. It became a public spectacle. Screenshots leaked, memes exploded, and suddenly, thousands of strangers were weighing in with their hot takes and jokes. Mark's heartbreak wasn't just his own anymore. It was internet entertainment, dissected and discussed by people he'd never met. Imagine having to explain to your parents, "Remember Chloe? She left me for my boss." And now, it's all over the internet. #got Slack scandal. Even your family group chat isn't safe. It sounds like a bad reality show, the kind you'd laugh at from your couch. But for Mark, it was just another Tuesday, except this time, the whole world was watching. He couldn't escape it, even at work. Every hallway conversation, every glance, every whisper was about him. The humiliation was total, inescapable. Mark became the unwilling star of a viral drama. Love, betrayal, and the unfiltered judgment of the internet, all playing out in real time. Fame, but for all the wrong reasons. And in a world that never forgets, Mark's 15 minutes of fame felt like a lifetime. Before the chaos, life was good. Mark felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be, living the kind of life he'd always hoped for. Mark had a job he liked at Innovate Inc., a tech startup with all the perks, free coffee, flexible hours, and a team that actually felt like friends. He was respected, challenged, and on a solid career path. Every day brought new projects and opportunities to grow, and his ideas were valued. No drama, just good vibes and a steady paycheck. He could pay his bills, save a little, and even treat himself now and then. And then there was Chloe. 2 years together, everyone thought they were perfect. Friends would joke that they were relationship goals. They finished each other's sentences, had inside jokes, and talked about moving in. Their connection felt effortless, like they just fit. Chloe was creative, supportive, and Mark was her biggest fan. She inspired him to see the world differently, and he loved cheering her on. Weekends were for exploring, laughing, and just being together. Whether it was hiking, trying new restaurants, or just binge-watching shows, they made the most of every moment. Mark's life was balanced, rewarding work, a loving relationship, and a bright future. He felt lucky, and he didn't take it for granted. The two worlds, work and home, rarely mixed, and that's how he liked it. Each part of his life had its own space, and everything seemed to flow. No signs of trouble, no big fights, just normal, happy life. It all felt so safe, so predictable. Looking back, that's what made the betrayal so hard. When everything seems perfect, you never expect the ground to shift beneath you. Mark thought he had it all figured out. He was already planning the next steps, maybe a new apartment, maybe a trip together. He never saw the cracks forming beneath the surface. Sometimes, the biggest changes come when you least expect them. Trouble started with a new boss, Julian. Julian was young, cool, and magnetic. He wore sneakers with blazers, remembered everyone's name, and made work feel exciting. He praised Mark, gave him big projects, and hinted at promotions. Mark was thrilled. He finally had a mentor. Julian's charm drew everyone in. He organized happy hours, remembered birthdays, and always had a compliment. There was nothing slimy about him at first. Mark saw him as a leader, not a threat. In hindsight, the charm was a weapon. Julian's persona was carefully crafted to get what he wanted, but at the time, he was just the cool boss. Mark, like everyone else, was taken in. He had no idea Julian would use that same charm to dismantle his life. The stage was set. Mark didn't even know he was part of the show. The change was subtle. It crept in quietly, almost invisible at first, like a shift in the air that you can't quite name. Mark noticed it in the way Chloe's eyes lingered a little longer, her tone just a bit more curious than before. Chloe's questions about Julian got oddly specific. She wanted to know about his schedule, his favorite coffee, even the projects he was working on. At first, Mark thought it was curiosity. Maybe she was just being friendly, trying to make a new colleague feel welcome. But the questions kept coming. Day after day, Chloe found new reasons to bring Julian up in conversation. Chloe started visiting the office more often, bringing coffee, dressing up, and always finding Julian. It was as if she had a sixth sense for when he'd be around. She lit up around him, laughed at his jokes, and seemed to hang on his every word. Her energy changed whenever Julian was near. Their conversations grew friendlier, more personal. Office visits became frequent, almost routine, and Mark started to feel like an outsider in his own space. Mark felt like a third wheel at his own job. The dynamic had shifted, and he was no longer at the center. Colleagues joked, "Is Chloe here to see you or the new VP?" The teasing stung more than he cared to admit. Julian's behavior shifted too. Overly friendly, always asking about Chloe. The professional boundary vanished, replaced by forced familiarity. Mark felt uneasy, as if he was being slowly pushed out of the picture. But he couldn't piece it together. Something was off, a puzzle with missing pieces that refused to fit. Still, he ignored the signs. He told himself it was nothing, just office politics or harmless flirting. The red flags were there. He just didn't want to see them. The pieces didn't fit, but denial was easier than facing the truth. But the picture was about to become painfully clear. The truth was waiting, just out of sight, ready to shatter his illusions. Mark was standing in a minefield, every step more dangerous than the last. He had no idea what was about to explode, or how close he was to losing everything he thought he understood. The night it all fell apart, Chloe claimed she was out with friends. Mark settled in for a quiet night, oblivious to the storm brewing online. Scrolling Instagram, he saw Chloe in a story, next to Julian, looking like a couple. The girls' night was a lie. Mark's heart sank. He searched for explanations, but there were none. Then a coworker messaged, "Dude, you need to see this." Attached screenshots from the company Slack. Julian had added Chloe as a guest contractor so they could message secretly. The messages were clear. Plans to meet, lies to Mark, weeks of flirtation. The betrayal was documented, time-stamped, and undeniable. Mark's world collapsed in real time. The evidence was everywhere. Instagram, Slack, and now his phone. There was no more doubt. The truth was out, and it was brutal. Mark's heartbreak was now public record. Mark waited for Chloe, phone in hand, evidence ready. She came home, full of fake stories. He showed her the Instagram post, then the Slack messages. Her face went pale. No apology, just cold justification. "It just happened. Julian and I have a connection." The next morning, the screenshots hit Reddit, then Twitter, then the news. The internet exploded. Slack cheater and VP of betrayal were trending. Mark's private pain became a public debate. Chloe packed a bag and left. No tears, no goodbye. Mark watched the woman he loved become a stranger. The silence was deafening. The story was everywhere, and Mark was at the center. His heartbreak was now a meme. There was no going back. The ending he never saw coming was now viral. The fallout at work was instant. Julian was out, escorted from the building. Innovate Inc. scrambled to control the damage, but Mark couldn't stay. Every Slack ping was a reminder. He quit, left the memories behind, and took time to heal. Months later, Chloe reached out, full of regrets and apologies. Mark felt nothing. He replied, "No thanks," and blocked her. It was a small act, but it felt powerful. Mark found a new job at a company with strict Slack policies. He learned trust is fragile, and charm can hide a lot. Even when your life becomes a meme, you can survive. Now he laughs at workplace drama stories online. He got through his own internet scandal and came out stronger. If nothing else, he has a killer story for parties. Sometimes you just have to laugh.